Imagine a single diesel locomotive so monstrous it weighed 270 tons, stretched the length of a 10-story building laid sideways, and roared with the force of 2 engines pounding inside one frame. Picture 8 locomotives chained together hauling 99,734 tons of iron ore across the Australian outback, in a train almost 5 miles long. These aren't fantasy machines, they're real steel giants that bent the laws of railroading. Today we're counting down the 10 most powerful diesel locomotives ever built. Number 10. The GE ES90ACE. We're starting this countdown with a locomotive that quietly became the workhorse of North American railroading, the General Electric ES90ACE. Built at GE's Erie, Pennsylvania plant beginning in 1993, this 6-axle beast pumps out a solid 4,400 horsepower from its turbocharged 16-cylinder 7FDL diesel engine. The -9 nickname continued GE's tradition of series names that started with the -7 back in the 1970s, and this model became one of the best-selling freight locomotives in American history. What makes the ES90ACE so important is not just its raw power, but its sheer ubiquity. Every major Class I railroad in North America ordered them, including BNSF, CSX, Norfolk Southern, Canadian National, Union Pacific, and the old Santa Fe and Southern Pacific railroads. Production ran for over a decade until stricter EPA emission standards in 2005 forced GE to replace it with the Evolution series. Even today, decades after the first one rolled out of the factory, thousands of these locomotives are still pounding the rails. They share their frame, their hired trucks, and their 752AH31 traction motors with the slightly tamer ES90ACE, which was electronically governed down to 4,000 horsepower to save fuel and extend engine life. Many of these older units are now being rebuilt into AC44C6M locomotives, giving them a second life with modern AC traction technology. The -9 may not be the most spectacular machine on this list, but few diesels have moved more freight across the continent. Number 9. The GE AC4400CW. At number 9 sits the locomotive that essentially launched the modern AC traction era for General Electric. The AC4400CW, built between 1993 and 2004. This 6-axle giant produces 4,400 horsepower from the same proven 16-cylinder 7FDL engine that powered the -9, but with one crucial difference. Instead of direct current traction motors, it uses alternating current motors with a separate inverter for each motor. That single change transformed what a locomotive could do. Traction means dramatically higher starting tractive effort and almost no risk of motor burnout from extended low-speed pulling. The AC4400CW could deliver around 145,000 pounds of continuous tractive effort, allowing it to crawl up mountain grades with massive trains where DC locomotives would have failed. Over its 11-year production run, GE built an astonishing 2,834 units for North American railroads. CSX, Canadian Pacific, BNSF, Union Pacific, and Kansas City Southern all bought them in big numbers. Partway through production, GE introduced an optional self-steering truck design, which Canadian Pacific and CSX adopted enthusiastically while BNSF and Union Pacific largely stuck with the standard trucks. By the late 1990s, GE's AC4400CW had outsold its EMD rival, the SD70MAC, and cemented General Electric's dominant position in the locomotive market. Production ended in 2004 when the EPA's Tier 2 emission standards took effect, and it was replaced by the ES44AC. To this day, the AC4400CW is one of the most successful AC traction locomotives ever built. Number 8. The EMD SD70ACe. Coming in at number 8 is Electromotive Diesel's answer to GE's Evolution series, the SD70ACe. Introduced in 2005 to meet the EPA's new Tier 2 emission standards, this 4,300 horsepower 6-axle locomotive became EMD's flagship freight machine for nearly a decade. The heart of the SD70ACe is the legendary 16-cylinder 710 G3 CT2 prime mover, paired with EMD's reliable EM2000 microprocessor control system and AC traction. What sets the SD70ACe apart is its sheer pulling muscle. The locomotive delivers 191,000 pounds of starting tractive effort and 157,000 pounds of continuous tractive effort, with a dynamic braking effort of around 105,000 pounds. EMD's famous self-steering radial trucks, the HTCR2, give it superb adhesion and reduce rail wear on tight curves. The SD70ACe was built at the Locomotive plant in London, Ontario, after GM divested EMD, and over 1,400 of them were built between 2003 and the mid-2010s. It found customers on virtually every Class 1 railroad in North America except Canadian National, which preferred the related SD70M2 variant. The locomotive was such a successful design that EMD later evolved it into the SD70ACe T4, a Tier 4 compliant version producing 4,400 horsepower for traction with 200,000 pounds of starting tractive effort, matching the legendary SD90MAC. The SD70ACe was EMD's last stand as a major locomotive builder before GE took dominance, and it's still one of the finest diesel-electric locomotives ever to ride American rails. Number 7. The GE ES44AC. At number 7, we have a locomotive that single-handedly redefined what a modern diesel could do. The GE ES44AC, often called simply the GE VO by rail fans. Introduced in 2005 after a 7-year, multi-hundred-million-dollar development program, this locomotive was GE's answer to the EPA's Tier 2 emissions regulations and quickly became the best-selling freight diesel in the world. The ES44AC produces 4,400 horsepower from a revolutionary 12-cylinder GE VO prime mover that delivers the same power as the 16-cylinder FDL engine it replaced, but with significantly better fuel economy and dramatically lower emissions. Tractive effort numbers are extraordinary. Around 198,000 pounds of starting tractive effort and 166,000 pounds of continuous tractive effort with AC traction motors that can sustain low-speed pulling almost indefinitely. The Evolution series was named by Trains magazine as one of the 10 locomotives that changed railroading, and it was the only locomotive introduced after 1972 to make that list. Every Class 1 railroad in North America ordered them. Union Pacific alone has nearly 900 units. The model spawned countless variants, including the ES44C4 with A1A trucks for BNSF, the heavy ballasted ES44AH for CSX and UP, and exported versions like the ES44ACI used in the brutal Australian outback by Roy Hill and Rio Tinto. Some Rio Tinto units can even be driven remotely from a control center, completely without anyone in the cab. The ES44AC remains one of the most successful and most numerous high-horsepower diesel locomotives ever built. Number 6. The EMD SD80MAC. Now we're getting into the truly heavy hitters. Number 6 is the EMD SD80MAC, the rarest of the modern high-horsepower locomotives. Introduced in 1995, this 6-axle monster cranks out a full 5,000 horsepower from a 20-cylinder version of EMD's 710G engine, the second time EMD had ever used a V20 since the legendary SD45 series of the 1960s. What makes the SD80MAC special is not just its power, but its exclusivity. Only Conrail bought them, taking delivery of 30 units in the mid-1990s before its 1999 merger and breakup between CSX and Norfolk Southern. The SD80MAC was the very first EMD locomotive to feature a flared rear radiator housing, similar to GE's designs dating back to the Dash 7. It also introduced AC traction technology with 6 Siemens 1TB2830 traction motors, delivering an impressive 185,000 pounds of starting tractive effort. Rail fans affectionately nicknamed them Conrail Cadillacs because of their sheer size and smooth ride. When Conrail was split, Norfolk Southern got 17 of them and CSX got 13. NS eventually acquired all of them in 2014 in a trade with CSX, only to retire the entire fleet in February 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. Most were scrapped, although the Conrail Historical Society has been trying to save at least one for preservation. As of 2025, 6 units remain in storage. The SD80MAC may have been a commercial dead end, but it stands as a fascinating chapter in the great horsepower race of the 1990s. Number 5. The EMD DD35 and DD35. Sliding into number 5 is one of the most fascinating experimental designs of the 1960s, the EMD D35 and its cab-equipped sister, the DD35A. These twin-engine, 8-axle behemoths produced 5,000 horsepower from a pair of 16-cylinder 567 D3A prime movers mounted back-to-back on a single frame. The story behind these locomotives is pure Union Pacific. In the early 1960s, UP was running its enormous gas turbine locomotives, but soaring fuel prices were making them uneconomical. Union Pacific wanted a single diesel locomotive that could match the steam-era big boys in pulling power. So UP went to all three major builders and asked for monster diesels. EMD's answer was the DD35, essentially two GP35 locomotives joined together under one cowling, riding on a pair of 4-axle flexicoil trucks. Because the 4-axle truck was considered too harsh on the tracks to lead a train, the DD35 was built as a cableless B unit. EMD demonstrated a 4-unit set in 1963 painted in striking red and white, basically 6 GP35s sandwiched into 4 units producing a combined 15,000 horsepower. Union Pacific bought the demonstrators and ordered 25 more, while Southern Pacific bought 3. 2 years later, UP asked for a version with a cab, and EMD delivered 15 DD35A units between May and July 1965. These titanic machines served on UP's main lines until the economic downturn of the early 1980s sidelined them. Sadly, every single DD35 and DD35A was scrapped, with none preserved. Number 4. The EMD SD45. Sliding into number 4 is the locomotive that kicked off the high-horsepower diesel era and gave rail fans one of the most distinctive sounds in railroad history. The EMD SD45. Built at Electromotive's LaGrange, Illinois plant from December 1965 through December 1971, this 6-axle brute pumped out 3,600 horsepower from a massive 20-cylinder 645 E3 prime mover. At the time of its debut, the SD45 was the most powerful single-engine diesel locomotive ever built, and that V20 turbocharged howl became legendary among rail fans. What made the SD45 stand out visually was its dramatic flared radiator design at the rear of the long hood, needed to dissipate the enormous heat generated by the 20-cylinder engine. EMD borrowed that flared radiator concept from the DD35 program, and it became the SD45's signature look. The locomotive measured 65 feet 8 inches long, weighed 368,000 pounds, and delivered 92,000 pounds of starting tractive effort with 82,100 pounds continuous at 11 miles per hour. Top speed was 71 miles per hour, fast enough to lead hot intermodal freights across the western mountains. EMD built 1,260 SD45s before production ended, with the first unit, Great Northern No. 400, nicknamed Hustle Muscle, rolling out in May 1966. Buyers included Southern Pacific, Santa Fe, Great Northern, Union Pacific, Northern Pacific, Erie Lackawanna, and many more. But the 20-cylinder engine had a serious weakness. The crankshaft tended to break under sustained heavy loads, and most railroads eventually moved on to the legendary SD42. Number 3. The EMD SD90MAC. At number 3 is EMD's boldest attempt to reclaim the horsepower crown from General Electric, the SD90MAC. This 6-axle monster was the first 6,000 horsepower diesel-electric locomotive ever produced by Electromotive, and to this day it remains the largest and longest single-engine locomotive EMD has ever built, measuring just over 80 feet from pilot to pilot. The story of the SD90MAC is the story of the great horsepower race of the mid-1990s. EMD and GE were locked in an all-out battle to be the first to deliver a 6,000 horsepower AC traction locomotive, and EMD's answer was an entirely new 4-stroke prime mover called the 265H. Developed in-house and breaking with decades of EMD tradition building 2-stroke engines, the 16-cylinder 265H was designed to produce a full 6,000 horsepower for traction, paired with AC motors delivering around 200,000 pounds of starting tractive effort and 165,000 pounds continuous. But the 265H engine was plagued with development problems. To bridge the gap, EMD started shipping locomotives with the proven 16-cylinder 710G engine producing 4,300 horsepower. These interim units became known as SD9043MACs, and Union Pacific bought 309, while Canadian Pacific took 61. When the true 6,000 horsepower SD90MAC ACe finally arrived in 1996, only UP and CP bought them, with UP taking over 40 Phase 1 and Phase 2 units, and CP rostering just 4. Reliability problems continued, production ended in 2003, and many former UP units were eventually exported to Fortescue Metals Group for service in the brutal iron ore operations of the Australian Pilbara. Number 2. The GE AC6000CW. At number 2 is a locomotive that pushed the horsepower envelope to its absolute limit, the GE AC6000CW. Built between 1995 and 2001, this 6-axle behemoth delivers a stunning 6,000 horsepower from a single 7 HDL16 prime mover designed in partnership with the German company Deutz MWM. It is one of the most powerful single-engine diesel locomotives ever built. The AC6000CW was born at the absolute peak of the horsepower race between GE and EMD in the mid-1990s. The goal was clear: build the first 6,000 horsepower AC traction locomotive. GE and Deutz MWM developed the 7 HDL16 engine, actually rated at 6,250 horsepower. Designed for the most demanding heavy-haul operations on Earth, early units suffered serious vibration problems with the new engine, and GE had to redesign the engine block with stiffer materials and thicker walls. Full production was delayed until 1998. The locomotive was bought by only 3 customers: Union Pacific, CSX Transportation, and the Australian mining giant BHP Billiton Iron Ore. CSX eventually repowered many of its AC6000CWs with the newer GE EVO16 engine, reclassifying them as CW46AHs at 5,800 horsepower. Union Pacific eventually downgraded its AC6000CW fleet to 4,400 horsepower using FDL16 engines. But the AC6000CW's greatest moment came on June 21, 2001, in the Australian outback. On that day, 8 BHP Billiton AC6000CWs worked together to set the world record for the heaviest and longest train ever assembled. They hauled 99,734 tons and 682 wagons for 275 kilometers between the Yandi mine and Port Hedland. The train was 7.3 kilometers or 4.536 miles long and carried 82,000 tons of iron ore. That record still stands today. The AC6000CW remains the most powerful locomotive to have ever operated in Australia, and one preserved unit, GECX number 6002, formerly Union Pacific 7511, sits at the Lakeshore Railway Museum in Pennsylvania, donated by GE in 2022. Number 1. The EMD DDA40X Centennial, and at number 1, the king of diesels, the undisputed champion of the rails, the EMD DDA40X Centennial. This is the most powerful diesel-electric locomotive ever built on a single frame, and it has held that title for more than half a century. Built exclusively for Union Pacific between 1969 and 1971, the DDA40X produces 6,600 horsepower from two 16-cylinder 645 E3A prime movers, each rated at 3,300 horsepower, mounted on a single 98-foot 5-inch frame that's longer than two 40-foot buses parked end-to-end. The locomotive weighs 270 tons, carries 8,000 gallons of diesel fuel, and rides on two massive 4-axle trucks in a DD wheel arrangement. The frames were so enormous that EMD couldn't build them. They were fabricated by the John Moore Company of Chicago and shipped to the EMD factory. The DDA40X earned its Centennial nickname because the first unit, UP6900, was delivered in April 1969, just in time for the centenary celebration of the completion of the first transcontinental railroad. It drove the famous Gold Spike Limited train into Salt Lake City on the morning of May 10, 1969, exactly 100 years to the day after the original Golden Spike ceremony. Union Pacific deliberately numbered the units in the 6900 series to mark the year, with road numbers running from 6900 to 6946. 47 were built in total. The X in the model designation stood for experimental because these were test beds for new technology that EMD would later use in future locomotives, including modular electrical components that made diagnosing electrical problems far easier. The Centennials hauled up's heaviest fast freight trains across the Wyoming plains and over Sherman Hill for nearly 2 decades. Each one racked up about 2 million miles in service before being retired in 1985. Some were briefly returned to service in 1984 during an economic recovery, but high maintenance costs forced their permanent retirement by 1986. Today, 13 DDA40X survive, scattered across museums and parks throughout North America. One unit, the famous UP6936, was kept operational by Union Pacific for excursion service until 2016. In 2022, UP donated 6936 to the Railroading Heritage of Midwest America, which returned it to operation for the first time in August 2023. To put the DDA40X's power into perspective, you'd need 3 of GE's modern Evolution series locomotives to roughly match what a single Centennial produces in raw horsepower. And nothing has surpassed it on a single frame in 57 years. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. Subscribe for more deep dives into the world of trains and engineering, and ring the notification bell so you never miss a video. Until next time, keep the trains rolling.